Welcome to Veronica Live, and I'm here with my wingman John Salick today, and we have a special guest. Very excited. We've got Michael Letts. He's the founder and president and CEO of in-vest, so in-vest USA. It's a national grassroots nonprofit organization, and you guys supply thousands of bulletproof vests for police officers around the country, and I had to have you on because I love law enforcement. So welcome, Michael, to Veronica Live.
Well, thank you, Veronica. We appreciate so much. Great to hear a positive voice. You know, we love you. It's kind of hard to find people that love law enforcement at the moment, and boy, we sure do appreciate what you stand for.
Well, I guess the most shocking thing, because you're giving out bulletproof vests, and I was shocked because I thought it was a mandatory thing that all law enforcement had to, when they're, on duty, wear their bulletproof vest. And let's see, I've got your number. You've given out 13,520, I think, in the last couple years here. So why is this not mandatory? I was literally shocked by this.
Well, thank you for being so kind, Veronica. Actually, we've been doing this for 30 years. When we started in 1993, 52% of cops had no vest at all. We got that number down to 19%. Now, to put it in perspective, when we're talking about 52%, understand at that time we had roughly 1 million officers, got up to 1.2 to 1.3 million. It's down to about 750,000 with the current administration. But So anyway, that's a lot of folks. Yeah. So you had 52% that did not have vests out of the 1 million officers. So that gives you about 600,000 or plus that needed protection. We got that number down to 19%. But in the meantime, in the last decade, our drug dealers, especially, and cartels, got a little bit on the smart side, shall we say, and decided to use long-range rifles to go after our officers. At the time when we started in 1993, the only thing available was a concealable vest. That's that vest you put under your shirt. That was the only thing that was available at the time. Well, when they started using long-range rifles, it'll cut right through a concealable vest. I mean, just cut through it like butter. So we had to stop and reevaluate and do some more technology and create what we call an active shooter vest that has titanium plates in it. Stop anything. Actually, it'll stop a 50 cal, Veronica. The problem is if blunt trauma will still kill you, but you'll look good in the casket. At least you'll be in one piece.
That's true. Which we shouldn't be joking, but that was funny, Michael.
That having been said, we have
the Dyneema vest and that kind of stuff. The flexible fabric, but it stops a lot of things. But,
we still though unfortunately, we have 90% now. Get this statistic: 90% of cops don't have this new technology. So that's roughly 1 million and a quarter folks that don't have the ability to defend themselves against long-range rifles. And that really is sad because I promise you the cartels, human sex traffickers, and the rest of the terrorists that are coming in from open borders are using them long-range rifles all the time. In fact, that's what they're doing now. They're using those rifles to ambush, target law enforcement officers sitting in their vehicles.
No,
we've got to give them a fighting chance.
Just a quick clarification, Michael. I think most of the vests, if I remember correctly, are typically rated for NATO 5.56 ball ammunition kind of thing as a standard. You're talking like a 50 caliber round. I mean, that's like a sniper rifle kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
It is. That is correct. In fact, we'll switch to military tactics here for just a second. Both of you have a military background. The flak jackets that we issue in combat have ceramic plates in them. What people don't realize is with a ceramic plate, you throw a good ammo box on top of it, you'll crack it. It's worthless. So even though the ceramic plate will stop a rifle round, a high-powered round, they're hard to maintain because of the fact they're so fragile. This titanium steel, you could throw it under the tread of an M1 Abrams. It won't bend it at all. You won't even know it hit it. So the military is now actively competing to try to make sure they get as many of these vests as possible for our troops. And I'm trying to compete to make sure we have as many as possible on the street, because unfortunately we got more officers that are killed in the line of duty right now than we have in combat situations.
Well, I don't think people respect them, sadly. But how it's just does the vest weigh? Is it heavy to weigh? Because I know, like, when people have deployed in the military, and you're in a combat zone, they want you to wear the vest, and often it's so heavy and it's just a lot. For people to wear, even though you have to wear them, they're just ridiculous. It's hard on you physically, especially when you're over in the desert and it's 120 degrees, and then you put a vest on. Are these lightweight?
There's two elements you're talking about. They're lightweight. There are two elements you're talking about there, Veronica. If you talk about the ceramic vests that the military uses, those things are about 50, 60 pounds a piece. If you're talking about the active shooter vests, we're talking about titanium plates, they're roughly 15 pounds.
Much
a little
better.
less. You're talking about a concealable vest. Remember, that's the ones that they used to have without, that's the one they used to have back then. It goes under your shirt. Those run about 10 pounds, 10 to 12 pounds. So, yes, they're a little. So, if you're an officer, if you've been on there like me for 30 years, and you were wearing a concealable vest, this is going to be slightly heavier, but not by much. And here's what's amazing. The carriers are made and designed in such a form of fashion now with the shoulder straps. It's more comfortable than wearing a concealable vest, quite frankly.
Well, I like to hear that. So how are you getting this message out, and how do you find who needs vests? Are they coming to you, or are you guys knocking door to door around the country saying, hey? And then why aren't these police places like funding vests? That should be their number one thing: their vehicle, their weapon, and the vest. To me, if I was in charge.
Well, Veronica, maybe we should put you in charge. But if you're part, the Biden administration doesn't want to do anything for cops. They support defund the police. It's ironic that we've got to the point. Of course, this is not happenstance. It's all been planned and organized to work this way. But their goal is, of course, if you're going to destroy a country, that's what I feel like they're doing. Trying to destroy our freedoms in our country in America. Hard to do that when people are armed. And so the best way to go after their armaments is to, first of all, destroy the people that enforce that, and that's the local cops, not the federal officers, but local and state officers. So they created an image through Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and others that our officers are bullies, thugs, not worthy of respect, racist, et cetera, et cetera. Then the next logical question came up: if that's what they're like, then why are we paying them? Or why are we paying them and giving them good equipment? So you begin to see the defund the police movement. Once that happened, then you begin to have that. You begin to change policy so that every officer is guilty, still proven innocent of anything he does. You make the policy so difficult they can't enforce the law. And you have like mandated vaccinations where you either let us experiment on you medically or you're fired. So we dropped those numbers down from 1.3 down to about 700,000. It's still going down. Officers are leaving in droves. Nobody wants to step up to wear the badge anymore. So the natural sequence of that, the natural sequence is this. Violent crime begins to spike and go up, and that's what's happening across the country. So you're seeing a rise, and of course you can add a little bit of flavor in there by bringing all these illegal immigrants. That always helps to bring the numbers up for violent crime. Then what they will do is what they're positioning themselves to do next, and they've already said it publicly. The federal government will say, never fear, your federal government is here. We're going to put federal police in charge of taking care of violent crime. And they have already said how they plan on doing it. The federal government under Biden has been very clear that it's the gun itself that causes the crime, not the person pulling the trigger. So we're just going to confiscate all the guns, and there won't be any more crime. Wish it was that simple, but that doesn't work at all.
Well, you've got your gun crew cheerleaders are here. So my motto is always be packing.
That's right.
So I'm going to start a line of clothes.
That citizen is a well-armed citizen.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I will tell you, we're going to have to make you an official spokesperson for this, because that's one of the things we are proposing across the country on all the shows I'm on. They say, what can we do to help? Say a couple things. First and foremost, we have the lowest morale in history. We have the highest number of officers killed in the line of duty. You realize we're 6 months into this year, and we are higher in terms of officers killed or assaulted in the line of duty than we were last year. And last year set a record. We're only 6 months into this year, and we're already broke that record.
I'm frustrated, and the law enforcement people that, like our sheriff here is wonderful, and I feel where we live here in Freedom, Florida, our county's in check because we've got a great sheriff that won't tolerate crime. And that's, I've got a friend that's a cop up in New York City. And so I'm constantly, are you okay? What's happening? Because it's just, I don't know why anybody would choose this profession because it's so difficult and they don't get the respect and love that they deserve. Because when we dial 911, I'm so thankful to see a cop when you have an accident or, your alarm goes off in your house. Who do we want to show up? Not the bad guys, that's for sure.
So then I tell folks that, so first and foremost, just tell a first responder if you see one today, thank you. Thank you for your service. That's all you have to say. Thank you.
I always do. When I was at the Kid Rock concert a couple weekends ago, I'm like, thanks for being out here. I always, and then I try to buy them food. If I'm in a Chick-fil-A line
awesome.
And they're behind me, I'm trying to buy them their Chick-fil-A because we appreciate
that. That is awesome. The second thing I tell people to do is if you're able to donate, you can go to our website. And I'm not telling you donate much. If you only can donate 50 cents, I don't care about the size of your donation. What I want to be able to tell officers across the country is there are millions of patriots who believe and who stand behind the thin blue line, shoulder to shoulder, and they want to support them. They need to know. They know the government doesn't care for them. In fact, quite frankly, our government has betrayed them. We use them for political and weaponized purposes nowadays, and they're frustrated by that. Then the third thing I tell people is this. You're going to love this, Veronica. You need to understand, we're talking about nationwide now. You think a cop's going to be able to keep you out of harm's way, you're sadly mistaken. The thin blue line is too thin. We're breaking down too fast. You and you alone are responsible for your protection of your family, yourself, and even of your neighborhood. So make sure you own a firearm. Make sure you know how to use it. It won't do any good if you don't know which end to point. Make sure that you know how to use it.
John and I learned this because we had a Hurricane Michael here. It'll be 7 years in October, and I've always had 1.9 mil just because in the military it's hard to move with a weapon. And like when I lived in Japan,
right.
You can't have a gun and you have to leave it in America. Well, after that experience with a Cat 5 hurricane and no cops, electricity, cell phones for several weeks, I now have an armory because it was scary, Shiza. And it's so funny because I've got friends that don't have weapons and they've had meth heads try to get into their house. And boy, their opinion starts to change, after you've experienced something like that when you can't call for help. And I'm with you.
Yes.
As long as you have the training and you go do the practice and you secure your weapons in your home, you should have an armory.
Well, I just want to follow up real quick on that, Mike, because Florida is not open carry, and I'm a fan of open carry. Okay, I know the politics. I didn't realize that.
I thought Florida was.
No, it's a constitutional carry, but not open carry, and it was because the Senate president doesn't like it, and that's the reason the law hasn't been changed in 10 years. At least she's gone this year. Well, after this year, but
my condolences because we are open carry in South Carolina.
Geez, I wish it really be that. But after the hurricane, that was one of the things that was an issue because, as Veronica said, there were no cell phones, there were no phones, there's no electricity. You couldn't even drive down the road because the trees were blocking the road. So emergency services were just out.
People were coming into town to loot.
Yeah, to loot.
They were coming to loot.
So people are open carrying, and it's like like our local police when they finally drove by, on a patrol just to try to see what was going on. I see people with guns on their hip and they're like not saying anything, because they know just as well as I do. There's no way to get a hold of them to say, hey, somebody's trying to rob my house. It's more like, hi, I'm going to shoot your ass if you don't vacate.
That's
because that's what it comes down to.
Envisioned.
Yeah, and so people don't understand how close we are to lawlessness, to the breakdown of a civil society.
We are closer than we have ever been.
This weekend alone, since 4th of July in Chicago, I think they've had 87 shootings. I can't even imagine being a cop up there. And then I know
correct.
John and I, we follow the news pretty closely. I think it was in Seattle or Oregon. Now they're hiring like illegals to be on the police force because nobody wants to join.
Seattle and Portland.
I'm like,
it's both Seattle and Portland.
It's out of control, Michael. It's literally out of control.
I did a show up there, and boy, did I ever catch it in the neck, but I told it like it was. How do you expect anybody to respect your law enforcement when you hire people to break the law?
Yeah.
The two don't work. I mean, that's like putting oil and water together. They don't mix. And
how much does a vest cost, one of these that you're funding for law enforcement?
We pay roughly $700. That's what, of course, we buy them wholesale. We're roughly around $700 a piece.
And do they last
for an active shooter vest?
A long time? Is it good for 5 years, or the technology changes? How long do they last?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Veronica. In the old vest, the concealable vest, the ones you wear underneath your shirt, with Kevlar, the 27 to 32 layers of Kevlar, they had to be replaced every 5 years. Now, what's interesting, I've shot Kevlar vests that are 20 years old, and they did just fine. But the manufacturer would not stand behind a warranty after 5 years. So they had to be replaced every 5 years. With these vests, with active shooter vests with titanium plates, your grandkids will be dead before they ever wear out.
Nice.
So,
I like to hear that.
The only thing you do have to change is understand they're in carriers, which is cloth. And, washing, sweating, and carriers after 5 or 6 years, the carrier is going to need to be replaced. But the actual guts, the elements, no, they'll last indefinitely.
Oh, good. That's nice.
So, Michael, what is it about the citizens having to step up to help the police? I remember, this is probably 40 years ago in Florida, we had a state trooper that was killed because he couldn't get to a shotgun, because at the time, every trooper's car, they had their shotguns in the trunk. And he was unable to get to it and ended up getting shot. And there was a very wealthy lady that from South Florida went and bought the shotgun carriers for every trooper car in the state of Florida, so that they wouldn't have that problem ever again. And what is it that the citizens have to? Why is that? What's wrong with our leaders that they don't understand the importance of this?
They have a very screwed up ideology and philosophy of what public service is. I served in public office for 32 years on council, so I can tell you I know exactly how the situation works and how the budgets work. And you have council members that say, I want to allocate X dollars and I want to cut back because I want to make sure I get this constituency base. We're going to hold a parade, let them do a parade. So I'm going to take money from the police department and give them to take it and have their special parade day so that they'll be more inclined to vote for me come election time. What a sad way to do things. I believe, we've lost our moral compass in this country. We need to have people that are statesmen in office, not politicians. We ought to hang every one of the politicians in the nearest tree if I could do it. And quite frankly, you need to be a statesman. Our Constitution says that, provide for the common defense. There are a few things that the Constitution guarantees, and the other stuff is all fluff. Fluff needs to go, and we need to just do what our Constitution enables us, requires us to do, and learn how to let private sector do the rest.
Well, I wanted to ask you, because you wrote a brilliant op-ed for PJ Media called "The Border Patrol's Real Position on Biden," and I've been helping a woman run for Congress here, and to me, the number one issue for all of Americans is our open border. And fast forward, when Biden did the debate, the first thing out of his mouth was that the Border Patrol supported him. And I was like, where's my airsick bag? Because that was total BS. and you mentioned that in your op-ed, because I was like, there's no way they support him, and that was like the first, his nose grew on that debate. So tell me about this op-ed, because, I feel like I feel so bad for the Border Patrol, because I can't even imagine what they're going through. And then we've got all these gotaways, it just, and then it was funny. this weekend, actually Sunday, Marco Rubio was on with Dana Bash on CNN, and she was saying, "Oh, the Biden administration is handling the border," and so of course he piped in, going, "Oh, they're handling it with the 10 million here," and she's like, "That's not true." So tell me your thoughts on the border and what a nightmare it is. I mean, and your op-ed's wonderful.
It is a nightmare. Well, thank you. I've got experience on that. First of all, I grew up in Mexico. My parents were missionaries, so I lived in Guadalajara, Mexico for my entire youth. I know exactly what happens in Mexico, what happens on the border. We've been to the border, I don't know how many times over the last year, handing out vests along the border. Because unfortunately, you have the drug cartel firing 50 cal rounds across the river just above the head. I've been there and experienced it. Just above the head to let our border agents know, you know what, I can drop you at any time because you don't have the protection to counter this, which is true. So we've been handing them out as fast as we can get them to our border patrol and to our sheriffs and police departments down there. I think what breaks my heart, it literally does break my heart, when I go down there and visit with all my friends, the sheriff's departments all along the border, they got 5 guys for 500 miles. 500 miles. That's 1 guy per 100 miles. So here's the point. You get in trouble, it's going to be a long time before you get back up. So you better make sure that you have the ability to protect and to defend yourself. We're putting these guys on the street with no protection, no ability to defend themselves. You give them a 38 on the border, maybe a 45, and that's about it. It's pathetic that we can supply all the arms to Ukraine. We can defend their borders concisely. We can't do a thing to help American law enforcement, first responders, or even our veterans that have sacrificed and come over here and living in homeless now because of that. You see, our poors are just screwed up. They really are, and that's why it's time to get a deep cleanse, and government has got to be, the swamp's got to be drained. We've got to change.
Well, I just want the border under control, and that's one of the things, too, is they're pushing that, what is it called, John? Is it Trump 2025? It's what they say Trump's going to do when he's in office. And one of them is taking out the cartel, which I'm okay with, because when you have 100,000...
Be careful on 2025, okay? Because
well, I don't think it's real.
Going to do.
I don't think it's real.
It's a heritage foundation.
Right. It's a
dream,
think tank document,
right.
But the left, they're pulling out all these pieces. But how are we going to get the border under control? We've got to secure it, and then we've had at least they're saying potentially this year we could lose 200,000 people to fentanyl, because they're taking these drugs, which is stupid, but they're in our country, and we've got to stop the source. So I wanted to hear
you're very
thoughts
right,
on that.
Veronica. Yeah. Let me just, I'm going to announce we just issued a press release moments ago. So I know you haven't gotten it yet, but I'm announcing it first to you, going to go to the rest of the country. There's a new drug called Xanaxolane that if we give to officers, they can get it into those who are overdosing on fentanyl in enough time, it will save their lives. It will block the drug from its receptors and cause these people to have a second chance to add life. And so we're big task in front to educate all of our first responders across the country to make sure they have the antidote in the car. But, we're losing hundreds, as you said, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of young people every year to this drug. We've got to combat it. We've got to do better. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is we're going to take out the cartel. We've got 652,000 children we can't keep track of in the last 3 years for human sex trafficking in this country. That's a lot of kids that have gone missing.
And nobody talks about it, Michael.
No,
you barely hear a peep about that.
Well, what we
they
hear
don't
is
talk about that.
like,
They don't talk about the hundreds of thousands of terrorists that have come across. We picked up 8 a couple of days ago that were ISIS from Iran.
Right.
I mean, it's not a matter they were on the terrorist watch list. These 8 we just picked up 2 days ago were terrorists, period, from Iran. They are card-carrying members of ISIS. They've been in raids on American soldiers before. Quite frankly, I think we should just go ahead and hung them from the nearest tree instead of sitting on them back. But sometimes they think I'm a little bit pushy, shall we say.
I like the idea of summary executions in some cases. I have no problem with
I
that.
guarantee it sends a message, does it not?
It does. It does. And you want to change behavior, and that's what it's about, is changing behavior. Then you start executing some of these people, and you'll see what happens. What do you think the thugs do? I mean, it's that's why they call them thugocracies.
So are you, Michael? Would you because Trump actually wants to maybe that the report says go into Mexico and take out the cartels, and I don't know how else we're going to do it.
I wouldn't mind having the border patrol shoot back at them. It's sort of like the sentries in Cuba and Gitmo.
North Korea and South Korea.
Yeah, get engaged, you get to shoot back.
Yeah. We have I've had these conversations with President Trump, quite a few of them actually, and quite frankly, he has actually even concurred what I'm saying. We're going to have a military role because we've got probably closer to 20 million illegal immigrants.
Well, he said 15.
And many of them.
He said 15 lately.
Yeah, he's off. He's off.
Well, they don't count the gotaways a lot of times in that number.
Yeah, exactly. It's closer to 20 million. And quite frankly, many of those are either drug cartels, human sex traffickers, or on the terrorist list. Or they're of military age. We got 60,000 Chinese
we've talked
military
about that
age
as military people, and then of
all
course,
across the country.
And China won't take them back.
And China's buying all this property everywhere too, across our country.
They are. They definitely are. So it's sad what is going on in this country, and if we don't do something about it and do it right away, we are going to end up with not have the ability to do anything. I mean, it's going to be destroyed. These 60,000, and it's not just Chinese. We've carded many of them. They're in the Venezuelan army, the Iranian army. They still got their ID cards on them. They're active. And this administration is shifting them all around.
I mean, I'm okay with when Trump gets in, these people that we don't know who you are, taking them back to their country, so I've actually put that on X,
right.
and I'm okay. I'll give you a little bit of money because you've been staying in New York in a 5-star hotel, and give them some of their money, whatever, a couple thousand, because I think in the long run, a couple thousand is dirt cheap versus having people here that I don't know who you are trying to take out a World Trade Center, Yeah,
I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is just such a joy to be on with people who have common sense. Thank you so much. I will tell you, you're hearing that background noise. They've got another interview coming in.
Oh, okay.
So unfortunately, we're going to have to drop. But God bless y'all. Thank you for what
Michael,
you're doing.
Let's investusa.org, and we'll have you back. And keep fighting the fight for our law enforcement. We stand with you. Thanks for joining Veronica
We'll
Live.
do it. God bless you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Michael.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
We'll be right back on Veronica Live.